Alright folks, I got some news for you today. Engin interviews Levan, Henry Naring interviews Lars Rorbakken, and we've got another match announcement. Alex Kurdecha versus David Dadikyan on the left arm. We'll get to everything in today's video. Alright, so we'll start with the interview that Engin did with Levan over on the East vs. West YouTube channel, if you want to check that out. And so we'll just hit a few points that I thought were interesting. They talked about who's going to get the next title shot. Obviously, we know that the Ermes versus Michael match is going to determine who gets that next title shot. And if Michael wins, I think he probably ends up pulling Levan pretty soon afterwards. He looks really strong right now, and he's really motivated, so I don't see him waiting very long to pull Levan if he does win. But if Ermes wins, it sounds like he might end up waiting for a little while and preparing a bit more before he faces Levan in the rematch. If he does that, we might get to see Vitaly Laletin go for the title before Ermes. So as of right now, Vitaly is ranked number 9 in the super heavyweight category on the right arm. And let's just go over who he's beaten so far in the top 10. Now he's beaten Ravaz Lutidze, Georgi Tsvetkov, and Dave Chafee, who previously were in the top 10, but they are no longer in the top 10. The only guy, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the only guy he's beaten in the top 10 is Artyom Morozov, who is ranked number 10. So what I'm hoping will happen is that Michael wins the Ermes match and goes for the title shot pretty soon afterwards, so that Vitaly has some time to maybe get some more wins over top 10 guys, because as of right now he's only beaten one guy in the top 10, and the guy he beat was ranked number 10. He is currently ranked number 9. So I understand that we are kind of running out of opponents to feed to Levan. He just destroys everybody. We may just have to give Vitaly the title shot, even though he hasn't really earned it compared to maybe some other guys. And I think the only reason I don't have a problem with Vitaly getting a title shot right now is because we basically have fed everyone to Levan. So I'd really like to see Vitaly get a chance to beat some of the other top 10 guys, but if he does end up getting the title shot without doing so, I don't have a huge problem with it, just because we're kind of running out of opponents for Levan at this point. Going back to the Ermes Gasparini versus Michael Todd match, I do think Ermes wins that match. You know, before I thought, oh, maybe he'll just try to flash pin him using side pressure, because in Michael's first match with Gennady, I believe, did get a pin at one point just from side pressure surges. And I think Ermes probably is stronger in almost every regard other than the press when compared to Gennady. But with how strong Michael has been getting and how much he has been working on his side pressure, I think Ermes' best bet to win this match might be to just establish position right off the start and climb over Michael's hand and just keep climbing and climbing and climbing until he just has such a dominant hand position there's no way he'll lose. Because I think we would all agree that off the go, Ermes is going to be more explosive than Michael Todd, and I think he does have the advantage when it comes to riser strength and getting height and being able to take the hand of Michael early on. I think it's the endurance that could really turn the match in Michael Todd's favor, but that can't happen if Ermes develops such a dominant hand position that endurance just is taken out of the equation. Right? Even Michael Todd is not going to win a match when Ermes has a good inch or two of height over his hand. So I do think Ermes wins that match, but I am rooting for Michael Todd. I would really like to see him face Levan, just because it's a style that we haven't really seen against Levan. Yes, we've seen Devin do the King's move against Levan, but Devin and Michael have very different King's moves. I would say Devin's version of the King's move is much more of an open top roll. When Devin gets flattened out, he generally gets pinned. Whereas when Michael gets flattened out, he can hold just an inch, half an inch above the pad as long as he wants to. I mean, you saw in the match versus Kamil Jablonski, he was stopping Camille, who was one of the best pressers out there, just an inch above the pad every round until he ended up pressing Camille. That might have been in the third, but nonetheless, he can hold in that very open position, whereas Devin, not so much. He really likes to take your hand as you go for the pin, and he wants to stop in more of a, 45-degree position rather than being almost fully extended like Michael. So moving on, Engin asked Levan, will you remain undefeated in 2025? And I'm sure you can guess his answer, and it basically was akin to, no man alive born of a woman is going to beat me. There is not a human on this planet who can beat Levan. And I agree with Levan. As much as I want Vitaly to beat him, as much as I want Ermes to beat him, just to kind of shake things up a little bit, bring excitement to the super heavyweight division, I don't think it's going to happen. I think we all kind of know deep down in our heart of hearts, Levan is the champ, and he will be champ until he decides that he's done. I don't even think that is arrogant from Levan. I just think it's the truth. Unfortunately, it is the truth. Okay, let's move on. So Henry Naring did an interview with Lars Rorbakken, and there's a ton of interesting stuff in this interview. I would recommend that you go and watch it. Henry is a very good interviewer, very charismatic guy, and I thought he did a good job with this. So let's get into some of the topics. One of the things I found interesting was Lars versus Schoolboy as a potential match going forward. So Lars and Schoolboy both had matches with Valera, and they both beat Valera. Now Lars faced Valera early on in his comeback, and he had a war with Valera. Some people would say that if Valera had a higher table IQ, that he could have actually won that match against Lars. But Lars did end up winning, and Schoolboy just recently had a match with Valera as well, and Schoolboy absolutely demolished Valera. It was not close, and I would recommend that you go watch that match. I'll have some highlights in the video, but it was a one-sided beatdown. It looked like Valera had never even arm wrestled in his life. So Schoolboy has clearly reached another level of strength, and I think this would be a good match. This is a fun match. This would have a ton of hype behind it, obviously, because Schoolboy is probably the most famous arm wrestler in the world right now. And Lars is a legend who has been on a comeback, but right now he's kind of on a losing streak. Beating Schoolboy would be a step in the right direction for him. And if Schoolboy could beat Lars, that would be huge. And I'd love to see Schoolboy back on the East versus West stage, since he just recently lost to Leonidas Arcona. I do think that Lars would probably win this match, even though his match with Valera was much closer. You have to remember that was earlier on in his comeback, and it seems like right now Lars is going to take some time to really get stronger and commit to arm wrestling again. So I do think he probably beats Schoolboy, but man, Schoolboy is looking very strong, and that match was very impressive. I think Schoolboy is reaching new levels, so it could definitely be a war, and I don't know anyone who wouldn't want to see that match. That is a very intriguing matchup. So later on in this interview, a few things were said that I just have to bring up. This is in no way to pick on Henry. I just thought these takes were wrong. So I'm going to address them and have a little bit of fun here. So the first thing was, he asked Lars, is there anyone out there that you could confidently beat that you haven't faced yet? And I don't remember Lars's answer, but the answer that was much more interesting was the one that Henry gave. And he basically said, I think you could give Georgi Tsvetkov a good fight. Now, I think this is a bit of a stretch. Matt Mask beat Lars pretty bad. And somehow, even when Matt Mask is destroying someone, he finds a way to mess it up and get pinned at least once. But for all intents and purposes, Matt Mask handled Lars pretty easily. I don't see Georgi Tsvetkov losing to anyone that Matt Mask can beat. Matt Mask is good, but do you really think that Georgi Tsvetkov couldn't just plow sideways like Matt did? I know Georgi is nowhere near as fast as Matt, but guys, the strength difference there would be far too much. If you disagree with me, definitely state your case in the comments. I'd be interested to hear the reasoning behind this matchup. And another point he made was about the Oleg Petrenko versus Alizahn Muratov left-handed match. And Henry said that at no point was Oleg winning or close to winning. Now, I've talked about this match before in regards to the rules on fouls. And you will see that in the first round, Alizahn ended up fouling out so that he wouldn't lose to Oleg. Oleg was going to pin him. Go back and watch the first round. Oleg stopped the first few surges, brought it back, and started winning that match. Now, there's definitely an argument to be made that Alizahn pinned him like 3 times and the refs just didn't call it. So there is a little bit of nuance there, but Oleg did bring that match back, and he was definitely, I mean, you don't foul intentionally when you're winning a match. So to say that Oleg was never winning or even close to winning, I think is just wrong. And after the reset in round 1, that match was a grinder. And then moving on to round 2, Alizahn did get the pin, but it was not a flash pin. And then moving on to round 3, that was also a grinder until the reset, and then in the reset, Alizahn got the flash pin. So yes, Alizahn won, maybe convincingly, maybe not, but I thought it was a fairly close match. And in the future, if Alizahn ends up losing to a top super heavyweight on the left, I would definitely like to see a rematch with Oleg. I thought that was a fairly close match, and if Alizahn doesn't end up fouling in the first round, if he does end up losing that and getting his bicep extended, who knows how that match goes. I'm not saying he wins, but it could have been much closer if that did happen. Alright, so the last point I want to bring up from that video was Henry's prediction regarding the Irakli Zerkashvili versus Todd Hutchings match. He predicted that Irakli would win. And his reasoning for this is that Irakli's side pressure and center control has gotten much better, and he's going to win by turning over Todd's pronator through superior cupping. Now, this is a good theory, but if you go back and watch the first match, in round 2, Todd messes up a surge, or he lets off the pressure at some point, and Irakli just surges at the perfect time, and he takes Todd all the way across the table. He almost pins him. He takes the pronator, he takes his hand and everything, and Todd still ends up just using his superior side pressure to just surge back to his winning side of the table. Irakli made that really ugly for Todd, and Todd was still able to dig his way out of that. And I know Irakli has improved, but I think Todd, even being as old as he is, has also improved. So go back and watch that match, and other than the one time where Todd kind of made a mistake, ask yourself, is there any point where you could see Irakli turning Todd palm up? It just doesn't seem likely. With the amount of side pressure and pronation that Todd has, there doesn't seem to be a lane there for Irakli. And I don't know how many of you guys pool, but if you do pool, you will know that if someone is applying a ton of side pressure into your hand through their pronator like Todd does, it is extremely difficult to cup their hand, especially with someone as explosive as Todd Hutchings. So anyways, I will talk about Todd versus Irakli any chance I get, and I like to hear other people's predictions on what's going to happen, so don't think that I'm attacking Henry Naring here or anything. I'm subscribed to him, I watch his videos. This is all in good fun. Alright, lastly, we've got another match announcement, and that is Alex Kurdecha versus David Dadikyan on the left arm. This is a pretty big match. David Dadikyan would have beaten Artem Morozov in their match if it was a best of 5. He pinned him, I believe, 3 times in the hook. So David Dadikyan, very, very strong in the hook. Alex Kurdecha, also very strong. He's got a good press, but he lost to Artyom Morozov. So they've both lost to Artyom Morozov in very close matches. I think this will be probably closer than people imagine. A lot of people are saying that Alex is just way too big and too strong. I think Alex will win for those reasons. I think with Alex being as big as he is, there is a higher potential to be stronger. But David has proven through his match with Artyom that he is up there with the best. So I don't have a great prediction for this one. I think Alex probably just wins because I think he's a little bit more versatile. And just with him being as large as he is, I think there is a potential for higher top-end strength. Regardless, I don't actually care a whole lot who wins this match. Maybe I would prefer that Alex win. He just seems like a good guy. But just add this to the list of great matches that'll be on the East versus West 16 card. It is going to be one of the best cards we've seen. I'm very confident of that. So anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. That is all the news I've got for you today. See you later. Bye.